Along more than 3,000 kilometers of coastline facing the East Sea stretches a land where life takes on countless different forms. Vietnam, a narrow and elongated country, yet extraordinarily rich in nature, where mountains, jungles and seas sustain one of the most diverse mosaics of life in Asia. From the cloud-covered mountains of the north to the humid forests of the south, each ecosystem is a stage of constant adaptation. Here, wild creatures have learned to survive among shifting seasons, hidden predators, and unpredictable resources. In the depths of the tropical forests, silent footsteps reveal the presence of animals that are rarely seen. Along rivers and mangroves, life flows with the rhythm of the tides. While in the sky, flocks of birds follow ancient migratory routes. This is a world where every day is a test of endurance, where survival depends on instinct, adaptation, and the delicate balance between species. Welcome to Wild Vietnam, the secrets of survival in the tropical jungle. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like and subscribe too. Support us and motivate us to keep creating higher quality content. And you, have you ever traveled to Vietnam? If so, leave a comment below and let's talk about it together. Let's begin. Beneath the waves, coral reefs shimmer like a submerged city. Among those coral branches, schools of multicolored fish glide like vibrant flashes of light, while small clownfish take refuge in soft anemones. Farther out at sea, sea turtles swim leisurely through deep blue waters, continuing an ancestral journey that has endured for millions of years. Small village paths and the kind smiles of the people welcome every traveler. This is Vietnam, wild, persistent, and in constant rebirth. The journey begins. Listen to the voice of Mother Earth and allow your heart to follow the rhythm of the mountains, forests, and seas. Welcome to our home, Vietnam. Every mountain, every river, and every wave tells the story of a peaceful and proud nation, small in appearance but immense in spirit. Stretching along more than 3,200 kilometers of coastline, Vietnam forms a slender S-shaped strip of land where mountains, hills, plains, and the sea support one another. Here, every morning brings the scent of the salt wind rising from the sea toward the streets, and every afternoon the rustle of forest leaves on the slopes can be heard. In the high canopies, the cry of gibbons resonates through the valley when dawn barely touches the treetops. In the lower strata, birds with radiant plumage cross the clearings, while small mammals move silently over the carpet of dry leaves. To the north rises the majestic Hoang Lien Son range, where the peak of Phan Xipang touches the clouds. In the misty forests of these high mountains, rare primates swing between centennial trees, while on the steep cliffs, mountain animals tenaciously roam the gorges in search of sustenance. Toward the west extends the Truong Son Range, like a backbone dividing the country into valleys, plateaus and coasts. This is one of the most important biological corridors in Southeast Asia. Thanks to the convergence of tropical jungles, high mountains, plains, wetlands and the ocean, Vietnam has become one of the world's biodiversity hotspots. Scientists estimate that more than 16,000 plant species exist here, alongside about 300 mammal species, more than 850 bird species, and nearly 300 reptile species. Many of them are endemic, existing only in the forests of Indochina. The two Great Plains, the Red River Delta in the north and the Mekong Delta in the south, are the rice granaries and sediment basins that sustain millions of homes. These fertile lands are not only home to humans, but also a paradise for water birds. In every migratory season, the sky is covered with the shadows of flocks of herons, egrets, and wild ducks flying over the fields and swamps. At sea, islands and archipelagos are linked together, from the freshness of Koh Tu and Cat Ba to the deep blue of Phu Quoc and Con Dao. Beneath the crystal clear waters surrounding these islands are vibrant coral reefs, where hundreds of species of fish, starfish, and marine organisms coexist in a world full of color. The coastline meanders past Ha Long, Lang Ko, Nha Trang, Phan Thiet, and Mui Ne, forming a gentle border shaped by waves. Vietnam is the land of tropical monsoons, warm sun, and abundant rains, but it is so rich that each region possesses its own melody. The north has 4 well-defined seasons: a spring pulsating with floral scents, a vibrant summer of storms, an autumn of dry and gentle winds, and a frigid winter. The central region lies between the mountains and the sea, with a dry season of golden sun and a dense, rainy season where rain often falls like a curtain over the mountains. The south and the central highlands are peaceful, with 2 clear seasons, dry and rainy. The rains bring torrential downpours that turn the forest emerald green, awakening the activity of insects, birds, and all kinds of creatures. The sun clears the sky and calms the sea, while coffee ripens aromatically in the red basaltic lands. The northeast and southwest monsoons transport moisture from the sea, which, along with the altitude of the terrain, form a unique climate. This climate nurtures one of the most diverse and fascinating natural worlds in Asia. Our first journey takes us to the majestic and imposing Truong Son Range. This long and vast mountain chain acts as a vital axis that begins in the northwest mountains. It borders the frontier with Laos and extends southward, opening into the red earth plateaus of the Central Highlands. On the map, Truong Son appears as a line of intense green that divides the country into a narrow coastal strip and a rolling mountainous region. Here, rains and winds are held back by the mountain wall, transforming into aquifers, streams and creeks that grow into rivers. In northern Truong Son flow the Ben Hai and Nat Le rivers. Toward the south, the Thu Bon and Trakuch, and deeper still, the Serapok and Krong Ana. These rivers are like silver threads, stitching the forest to the plains. They link the past and present of the communities that live at the foot of the mountains. The structure of the Truong Son terrain changes according to the stretch and altitude. In the low zones are ancient humid jungles with lianas embracing colossal trunks. As you ascend, the forest becomes subtropical, with conifers, chestnuts, and Fujian cypress immersed in a thin mist. Among them, the limestone regions have been sculpted by water and time, creating caves, sinkholes, and underground rivers, stone labyrinths that exhale coolness throughout the year. The climate of Truong Son also has its own rhythm. The northeast monsoon brings mist and persistent rains, while the southwest monsoon, blocked by the mountains, leaves many valleys dry under a clear sky. It is these opposing rhythms that create countless microclimates, harboring one of the highest levels of biodiversity in the region. Every morning, the golden-cheeked gibbons of the Truong Son forest wake up in the highest branches. Pairs sit face to face and sing a duet that resonates through the valley as a territorial mark. When sunlight pierces the foliage, the small family begins to swing through the forest canopy, following their daily feeding route. The golden-cheeked gibbon lives in long-term monogamous pairs. A male, a female, and their offspring form a family group of between 3 and 5 individuals. They maintain their own territory and raise their offspring together. The young cling to the mother's belly during the first months until, upon reaching maturity, they leave the group to search for a new mate. Most impressive is their coloring. The male is black, like a fragment of night suspended among the leaves, with golden orange cheeks that shine softly under the morning sun. The female, in contrast, possesses a soft honey tone with a black crown, like a quiet note in the forest's symphony. Moving together, They seem like two fragments of light and shadow that contrast yet complement one another, making each leap between branches emanate loyalty, elegance, and the pride of the mountains. Dawn is also the time when great hornbills forage in ancient banyan trees. They are the sovereign birds of the upper canopy. With imposing bodies and colossal beaks, their hollow, bony casques look both majestic and mysterious. The great hornbill usually feeds on figs and fruits from ancient agarwood trees. In these heights, only the wind and the rustle of leaves dwell. Every time they flap their wings, the entire forest seems to tremble. The sound of their wing beats resonates powerfully in the immensity of the primeval forest. Hornbills are tied to the tallest trees. The male perches firmly on a branch, uses his beak to pluck clusters of fruit, catches them with skill, and tosses his head back to swallow them whole. They toss the food into the air and catch it with the tip of the beak with amazing speed and precision. In the bird world, the hornbill is a symbol of fidelity. They form stable pairs for many years and return to the same territory, often reusing the same tree hollow season after season. When breeding season arrives, the female enters the trunk cavity and seals the entrance. From then on, the male takes on the entire burden of foraging. He brings wild fruits each day and occasionally insects or lizards, delivering them through a narrow slit to feed his mate and chicks. Without being as colossal as the great hornbill, in the lower strata of the forest, the Malabar pied hornbill moves with lightness, like a delicate version of the giant. Without such a prominent casque, it possesses a curved and stylized beak with yellow or orange-red edges that shine when the sun filters through the leaves. Its song is not thunderous but faint, like a lonely call in the middle of the jungle. These hornbills usually live in pairs, diligently searching for ripe fruits, insects, and small lizards. They share every bite before taking refuge in the thicket to rest at midday. In the breeding season, they also choose hollows in ancient trees to nest. The female secludes herself and seals the entrance with mud, just like her larger relatives, leaving barely a small slot to receive the food the male provides. Every morning, the male flies tirelessly along the forest edges, his beak loaded with figs or insects, returning to the nest to feed his mate. After the chicks hatch, the pair maintains their habit of fidelity and protection throughout the rainy season. In the canvas of the Truong Son forest, the great hornbill is the powerful sound of the heights, while the Malabar pied hornbill is the soft note of the lower stratum. Smaller and more discreet, it carries the ancient breath of a lineage that once ruled the forest skies. At the end of April, the first rains begin to fall, relieving the stifling heat that still persists from the dry season. The forest leaves grow damp, and the red dust of the paths turns into a thin layer of mud. The streams of the Tropical Range, after months of aridity, remain mostly dry, with their beds of white stones exposed and only small puddles stagnant between the rocks. These first rains are like a preamble that freshens the air and awakens the scent of earth and moss, but they are not enough to restore the flow of the waterfalls at the headwaters. In this season, the small mouse deer must travel greater distances to find water. They are extremely shy creatures, living silently in the understory and almost disappearing at the slightest strange noise. It is the smallest member of the ungulate group, with forelegs thin as reed stalks that allow it to walk without noise over the carpet of dry leaves. During the day, they usually hide in the thickets, coming out only at dawn or twilight to search for tender leaves, fallen fruits or mushrooms. The mouse deer is solitary by nature, though it may move in discrete pairs, marking a small territory with scent and familiar routes. When the forest dries up, it ventures toward the puddles in the streams, drinks quickly, and returns to the protection of the brush. It is not a noisy creature, but its silence and its tiny size are its survival strategy, a very faint heartbeat in the heart of Tropical. Primeval forests are sanctuaries where nature preserves its majesty and mystery. Centennial trees rise toward the sky, with intricate roots clinging to the damp ground. This creates a dense tapestry where sunlight barely manages to filter through the layers of foliage. Beneath this thicket lies the world of wild creatures, among them fearsome venomous snakes that play a crucial role in the natural food chain. Among the most dangerous species of Tropical, the king cobra cannot be overlooked. It is the most formidable predator, with a length that can reach 5 meters. It is the longest venomous snake in the world, possessing an extremely potent venom capable of bringing down its prey in moments. Unlike other cobras, the king cobra hunts and feeds mainly on other snakes, even of its own species. When it feels threatened, it rears up the front of its body, expands its hood, and emits an intimidating hiss. In addition to the king cobra, Tropical is home to many other venomous snakes, such as pit vipers, which live in the treetops, or Russell's viper, with its lethal bite. However, there is a unique snake in this region, the flying snake. This species is active mainly during the day and spends most of its time in the heights looking for food. Its method of flight is actually passive gliding, similar to a controlled fall. Nevertheless, in the vast forests of Tropical, this method of travel offers a considerable advantage. This allows it to move between tall trees with a minimum expenditure of energy and time. When it needs to relocate, the flying snake looks for a suitable branch, observes its surroundings, and launches itself with a jump. As it jumps, it expands its ribs and contracts its abdomen, making its body extremely flat. This shape increases air resistance, slowing the fall. Simultaneously, it undulates its body in a special way that stabilizes its movement in the air. Thanks to this, it can literally glide in an impressive way. More than a simple means of transport, this ability helps it hunt, especially for lizards, its favorite prey. North of the city of Buon Ma Thuot, the Yokdon Forest is one of the last remaining wild domains. Here, the dry season paints the forest in brown and yellow tones. The trees lose their leaves to conserve water, and the silver-grey grasslands bow before the tall trunks with sparse canopies. At the start of the rainy season, the buds awaken in unison, and the entire forest turns bright green after just a few downpours. This is the deciduous broadleaf forest, typical of the Central Highlands. Trees of the Dipterocarp family grow spaced apart, with straight trunks and thick bark to resist the grassland fires at the end of the drought. This ecosystem lives at the rhythm of the two seasons. In the dry season, fire cleans the leaf litter, returning nutrients to the soil. When the rain arrives, the entire forest comes back to life. This forest is the last refuge for herds of elephants. They inhabit the open jungles near the Serapok River, where the grass is dense and small water deposits still remain in the middle of the drought. In the early mornings, when mist still envelops the peaks, the herds walk on fresh pastures. The scent of young grass and the song of birds, along with the heavy sound of their steps, create the distinctive soundscape of Yokdon. The elephants here possess imposing bodies, exceeding 2 meters in height and reaching 4 tons in weight. Their thick, grey skin is marked by cracks that look like the bark of an old tree. Their ears are smaller than those of their African relatives, but their trunk is so long and skillful that it can pick up a blade of grass or break an entire branch. A distinctive feature is the tusks of the males, white and shiny, which curve slightly. They are weapons of defense and combat during the mating season. When moving, the herd advances in a line. Adults lead while the young are kept in the center, feeding and opening a path through the vegetation, leaving wide trails in their wake. Elephants are famous for their remarkable memory. They remember with precision the path to each salt lick, water hole or fruit tree according to the season. The alpha female is usually the group's living map. The young travel, the routes their ancestors traversed for decades. Cases have been documented of individuals separated from the herd who, years later, found the exact path to return. In their memory, the forest is not just a home, but a map containing every sign of life. The smell of water, the wind, the flowers, and the call of their kind. For the local inhabitants of Buondon, especially the Ede communities, the elephant is not just a working animal, but a member of the family. Since time immemorial, elephants have been tied to the home. They perform thread-tying ceremonies on the elephants' wrists, just as is done with humans. Festivals like elephant races, offerings for their health, or the celebration of their return to the forest are not just cultural activities. They are the living memory of a mountain civilization where humans respect, love, and thank the animal that helped them colonize the Central Highlands. Every sound of the gongs and every dance tells the story of friendship, loyalty, and gratitude between the inhabitants of Bondon and the gentle giants of Yokdon. Currently, the wild herds of Yokdon number only a few dozen individuals that move between Vietnam and Cambodia according to the seasons. But every time a large footprint is seen imprinted in the dry bed of a stream or their trumpeting is heard in the thicket, we know that this forest still holds its soul. Leaving behind the majestic red lands of the Central Highlands, the journey leads us to the Sun Tra Nature Reserve, an emerald jewel situated in the heart of the city of Da Nang. This place is a magical harmony between forest and sea, where centennial trees cover the peaks while below, crystal clear waters embrace white sand beaches. Sun Tra is home to hundreds of rare species of flora and fauna, notably the red-shanked duke, considered the queen of Vietnam's primates. At dawn, in the highest canopies of the Sun Tra Peninsula, families of red-shanked dukes silently pluck the greenest shoots. It is one of the most impressive and beautiful primates in the world. With its vivid colors, warm orange face, dark eyes, and long limbs, its fur turns the forest into a painting in motion. In Sun Tra, these primates inhabit multi-strata evergreen forests. They stay on the limestone slopes where the sea breeze blows constantly and the closed canopy allows them to move to feed. They are distributed in small groups of 5 to 15 individuals, led by an adult male who acts as guide and lookout. They live in the heights and almost never descend to the ground. They move between branches with precise and soft jumps, like the sea wind caressing the forest. As typical folivores, their diet consists of tender leaves, shoots, flowers, and fruits. In their slender bodies, they possess a complex multi-chambered stomach, where fiber-rich foods ferment to extract every nutrient. In the silence of the forest, they communicate through short calls, looks, and gestures, a subtle language that maintains group cohesion and warns of dangers. Nevertheless, the number of red-shanked dukes in the wild is not high. Therefore, every flash of color among the branches at dawn is an urgent reminder to preserve this forest. In addition to the radiant dukes, this place is a refuge for the silver pheasant, a symbol of purity beneath the forest canopy. Under the faint rays of sun, the male looks like a stroke of ink against the forest floor. His silver-white plumage with fine black lines, and his face of intense red like hidden embers. Each step is a subtle rustle, dragging a long curved tail that leaves a delicate mark over the layer of damp leaves. They prefer dense, humid and cool ancient forests, moving silently during the day to pick up seeds, fallen fruits, shoots and insects. At late afternoon, they fly to high branches in search of nocturnal refuge, while the pheasant blends into the lower stratum. From the distance comes a rhythmic sound, as if someone were knocking at the doors of the forest. It is the woodpecker. It works diligently, searching for larvae in decomposing trunks. Its beak, hard as steel, strikes with a vibrant rhythm over the old wood. This causes fragments of bark to fall like a rain of dry leaves. Its black eyes shine with concentration. It possesses a small but powerful body with plumage that combines red, black and white. Shining in the beams of light that filter through, it is a healer of the forest. Each strike not only seeks food, but allows the tree to breathe and insects and fungi to continue the cycle of life. In Sumatra, the sound of the woodpecker at dawn feels like the heartbeat of the mountain. Constant, persevering, uniting the life of ancient woods with the shoots that emerge. In the symphony of the forest, if the silver pheasant is earthly elegance, the tapping of this bird is the rustic and vigorous rhythm of rebirth. Leaving behind the Sumatra Peninsula and the immensity of the sea, the journey takes us to the mountainous regions of northern Vietnam, where clouds play on the slopes and rice terraces meander like golden silk ribbons embracing the hills. Each level of cultivation is stacked one above the other, reflecting the dawnlight like stairs leading to the sky. In this majestic setting, the mountain farmers work tirelessly, with sun-weathered faces and smiles of deep honesty. More than a domestic animal, for generations, the water buffalo has been the inseparable companion of the Vietnamese farmer. Under the sun and winds of the countryside, the buffalo walks leisurely through the flooded fields. Its curved horns rise like strokes of the earth itself. Each furrow the buffalo opens is a track of life, where rice shoots will grow green in the next season. For the farmer, the buffalo is not just draft power or a valuable asset, but a confidant of the harvests, sharing days of hard work and rest under the shade at sunset. The sound of its morning bell and its breath exhaling vapor in the thin mist are the sounds of rural peace. The image of the buffalo leading the way and the plough following it has been immortalized in folklore as a symbol of industriousness and the human bond with the land. Leaving the mountainous rural areas, the journey directs us to the Huanglian National Park, situated in the imposing Huanglian Sun Range, known as the Roof of Indochina. White clouds float suspended around peaks that exceed 3,000 meters. The summit of Fansipan stands sovereign between sky and clouds, surrounded by dense, humid and life-brimming primeval forests. This park is a biological treasure of Vietnam, a convergence point for thousands of rare species of flora and fauna. Such species include the Asiatic black bear, the Tonkin snub-nosed monkey, and the serow, proud beings of these cold lands. When spring arrives, Huanglian blooms in a greenery that covers the slopes. In winter, frost and snow transform the place into a fairy tale in the middle of Southeast Asia. Beneath the canopy of moss-covered forests, crystal-clear streams flow through silver waterfalls with a murmur that seems like the mountain's lullaby. At dawn, Tonkin's snub-nosed monkeys fill the valley with their bustle. Their calls resonate among the white mist, waking the entire forest. It is an extremely rare primate with a pink face, characteristic flat nose, and a thick grey coat that allows it to adapt to the cold of the heights. This is also the last home of the Asiatic black bear, an imposing but silent creature that is gradually disappearing from the northern forests. Among the steep cliffs of Huanglian Son, the serow appears and disappears among the rocks. Its gait is firm and agile, like the very spirit of the mountain. This species possesses an extraordinary climbing ability, unsurpassed by almost any other ungulate. Its cloven and robust hooves allow it to adhere firmly even on vertical walls and trails as narrow as a human foot. Its compact body and low center of gravity grant it perfect balance when jumping crevices or skirting steep slopes. Thanks to this, the serow moves with ease through places where humans only dare to look, and it has become the symbol of the strength and resistance of Huanglian. But what makes this forest truly special is the presence of the musk deer, a tiny but extremely rare creature. Unlike other deer, it lacks antlers. It possesses a slender body, deep black eyes, and a pair of long curved canines that give it a singular appearance. Nevertheless, they are peaceful and skittish beings. They inhabit humid and cold forests above 2,000 meters, where moss covers the roots and mist envelops the slopes. What makes the musk deer special is its musk gland, a small sac on the male's abdomen that secretes a characteristic, intense and long-lasting fragrance, almost unmatched in nature. This scent was once considered a treasure in medicine and perfumery. Due to its high value, the species was intensely hunted, which drastically reduced its population, leaving barely a few faint tracks on the mist-shrouded mountain of Huanglian. Leaving the majestic Huanglian Sun Range, the journey takes us south, where Cat Tien National Park extends along the meandering Dong Nai River. Unlike the humid cold of the north, Cat Tien exhales a warm tropical breath. Its ancient forest remains green all year round. Colossal trees rise to cover the sky. Sunlight filters through the leaves, creating golden beams that reflect in the crystal clear streams where butterflies congregate in a display of colors. This is one of the largest remaining primeval forests in the south, home to more than 1,500 plant species and hundreds of rare animals such as the gaur, the black-shanked duke, crocodiles, and the green peafowl. In June, when the rainy season floods the south, Cat Tien takes on a different appearance, humid, fresh, and brimming with energy. Rain in the forest is not noisy like in the city. It begins as a persistent murmur and suddenly falls with the force of a waterfall. The drops pierce the layers of foliage and remain suspended like jewels in the deep greenery. The earth softens, the scent of damp leaf litter spreads, and water vapor rises like a mystical mist. In this space, where the treetops intertwine like a giant dome, the gaur, the largest wild bovine in Asia, persists as the soul of the great southern forest. With its athletic body, a shoulder height of more than 2 meters, and a jet black coat that shines at dawn, it radiates power, fierceness, and pride. Its white legs contrast with its dark body, and its thick horns, curved backward like 2 crescent moons, symbolize the primitive strength of the ancient forest. Gaurs live in small herds of 5 to 15 individuals. These groups are led generally by an adult male, followed by females and young. They prefer open forests, meadows near streams, or clearings along the Dong Nai River, where young grass grows dense after the rains. At dawn, the herd leaves the thicket to graze, and at sunset, when the last ray of light leaves the canopies, they silently return to hide. Despite its massive size, the gaur is extremely sensitive and cautious. The slightest noise or a strange smell on the wind makes the entire herd instantly disappear into the thick vegetation. Today, the gaur population in Vietnam is very small, and Cat Tien is one of the few places where its tracks are still recorded. In the middle of the humid breath of the tropical forest, a rustle of broken branches can be the signal that the herd has just passed. The black and imposing silhouette over the damp grass, with horns reflecting the light, is a symbol of the remaining wild, a reminder that the forest still breathes and that the untamed still holds a place in the land of Vietnam. Among the dew-moistened grasslands of the open forests of the southeast, an imposing silhouette walks leisurely. It is the green peafowl, one of the most beautiful birds on the planet. With its metallic green plumage, long and elegant neck, and a small crest crowning its head, it possesses a proud and wild beauty typical of Asian tropical forests. The male possesses a splendid tail that can exceed a meter in length. When breeding season arrives, he unfolds his feathers in a colossal fan covered with golden and green eye spots. Under the forest light, each fiber of his feathers vibrates like living sparks. It is one of the most spectacular displays in nature, where beauty becomes the language used to attract a mate. Green peafowls usually inhabit open forests near water sources, where they have vast meadows to feed. During the day, they roam the ground in search of seeds, wild fruits, insects, and small lizards. In the late afternoon, they fly to high branches to sleep, protecting themselves from predators. Today, the green peafowl is scarce in the wild. However, in large ancient forests like Cat Tien or Yok Don, it is still possible to glimpse its proud silhouette crossing the grasslands at dawn. When its green tail opens under the forest sun, the entire environment seems to light up. This is testimony that the primal beauty of nature still persists in the forests of Vietnam. This is also the last refuge of the southeastern elephant herd. They live discreetly in the grasslands near the forest, being the last witnesses of an age of wilderness. Currently, only 15 to 20 individuals remain scattered in the southern and southwestern zones of the park, near the banks of the Dong Nai River and the dense bamboo forests. They move seasonally. During the day, they hide in the primeval forests, and only in the late afternoon do they come out to the edges in search of bamboo shoots, wild fruits, and tender grass. Their large tracks in the damp earth, down trunks, or the sound of branches breaking in the rainy night are the rare signals that the presence of these giants still endures. Although scarce, the elephants of Cat Tien represent the last hope for the survival of the southern Vietnamese forests, a symbol of strength, memory, and the persistence of nature. In June, the rains resurrect the wetlands of Cat Tien. The riparian meadows turn green, and the open forest is transformed. Few know that this place was the last home of the Javan rhinoceros. Its heavy steps were once imprinted in the damp mud while it searched for shoots in the morning mist. However, one day in April 2010, the last individual was found dead in the forest with its horn cut off. DNA analysis confirmed that only one specimen remained in Vietnam, and it had perished. In October 2011, the official declaration of the extinction of the rhinoceros in Vietnam closed a long era of the southern tropical forest. Since then, with each rainy season, the grass continues to grow on the plains, and birds call to each other among the canopies. But the silhouette of the gentle giant has vanished forever from Vietnamese soil. Today, the skeleton of the last rhinoceros is exhibited in the Nature Museum of Cat Tien National Park as a mute testimony of a species that definitively left Vietnamese soil. Cat Tien still carries the sounds of rain and silt, but it also keeps a deep silence in the heart of the forest for a being that is now only a memory. As June passes, the rains grant the open forests a new vitality. The grass grows thick, the green of the leaves deepens, and the space is filled with the song of birds looking for mates. This is also the time when small tailor birds form pairs to nest. Fragile beings, but full of life. They choose low shrubs with wide leaves at the forest edges or near streams to weave bag-shaped nests, skillfully using dry grass, soft leaves, and fine silk threads. When the sun shines after the rain, the light spreads golden among the foliage, and the accumulated water drops sparkle like crystals. The male, from a high branch, sings clearly and quickly to mark his territory and call his mate. The female, among the thickets, lines the nest with plant fibers and moss, sometimes even collecting spiderweb threads. In the forest clarity, the nest is completed, compact and warm, ready to house the pinkish eggs of a new season of life. From on high, the Asian coal observes in silence, with its red eyes gleaming with cunning. It patiently watches the tailor bird pair. When the small birds move away in search of food, the coal quickly descends to deposit its own egg in the nest, expertly removing one of the original eggs. From that moment on, incubation and rearing become the responsibility of the unsuspecting tailor birds. When the eggs hatch, the coal chick is born before the others. Devoid of plumage and with closed eyes, it possesses a frighteningly strong survival instinct. With its meager strength, it uses its back to push each egg and each tailor bird chick out of the nest, one by one, until it remains alone in the warm refuge. The coal grows with unusual speed, reaching a size that doubles that of its adoptive parents. With a red beak always open, it incessantly demands food. The scene is both pitiful and cruel, a cold law of nature, where the strongest subsists thanks to the affection of small and vulnerable beings. Leaving the tropical forests of Nam Kat Tien, the journey takes us to Con Dao, an archipelago off the southern coast where nature seems to reach its purest state. Among crystal clear turquoise waters, extensive white sand beaches, and the gentle sway of the waves, a silent miracle occurs, the return journey of the sea turtles. Every year, as the breeding season begins, the females leave the immensity of the ocean and travel thousands of kilometers to return exactly to the place where they were born. Without modern navigation systems, they are guided by the Earth's magnetic field and the chemical signature of the water. The warm and vast sands of Con Dao are the cradle that has welcomed generations of turtles since the dawn of the oceans. Several species, including the green turtle and the loggerhead turtle, choose Con Dao as their nesting site. In particular, the green turtle is famous for its amazing homing instinct, crossing cold waters and intense currents to find the precise beach of its birth. Upon arrival, the mother turtles emerge onto the beach. They move slowly over the sand, looking for a safe place to dig their nest. This process exhausts their energies. They use their front and rear flippers to excavate a deep hole where they deposit their eggs. A single nest can contain between 50 and more than 200 eggs, depending on the species and the size of the mother. Once the laying is finished, they cover the nest with sand to create a natural protection and return to the ocean. Curiously, the mother does not stay to incubate. She entrusts that task to the warmth of Con Dao's sun. The survival of the hatchlings remains entirely in the hands of nature and chance. Around the Con Dao archipelago, we discover majestic coral reefs that extend underwater like a multicolored tapestry of the ocean. From Hon Bei Kan and Hon Kao to Hon Tre Lon, the coral glows everywhere, resembling secret submerged gardens. Hard corals rise like fortresses, while soft corals sway to the rhythm of the waves, creating a vibrant world where hundreds of species of reef fish, starfish, urchins, sea cucumbers, squids, and octopuses coexist. In the middle of this splendor, it is common to see anemones swaying. Their tentacles move like underwater petals. Inside them, small clownfish swim vivaciously, their orange and white colors standing out in the deep blue. Between them exists a perfect symbiosis. The anemone protects the clownfish with its stinging tentacles that ward off predators, while the fish cleans parasites and generates oxygen-rich water currents. This bond, forged through millions of years of evolution, is a natural harmony where life finds balance in cooperation and mutual support. An extraordinary aspect of these waters is the presence of the dugong, a peaceful marine mammal and one of the rarest on the planet, nicknamed the Siren of Kondao. Distant relatives of elephants, they feed on seagrass meadows that grow in the shallow waters around the islands. Of massive body but graceful movement, the dugong glides slowly, leaving a trail of sand in its wake like a serene trace of a primal ocean. Being mammals, they possess lungs and must rise to the surface to breathe. Their nostrils, situated at the top of the head, have muscular valves that allow them to take quick breaths. To inhale, the dugong barely pokes its head above the water, takes in air deeply for a few seconds, and dives back in. Their lungs have evolved to extend along their body, which helps them maintain balance and reduce buoyancy. Their breathing is as peaceful as their being, slow, soft, and quiet, like the very breath of the ocean. Every time they emerge, a small column of white vapor rises in the blue, a silent affirmation that this gentle life still persists in the reaches of the Vietnamese Sea. In September, the rains in Kondao subside. The golden sun spreads over the white sand, and the breeze blows lightly. The small waves strike with the rhythm of the island's breathing. After 70 days, the eggs begin to hatch. The hatchlings, barely 5 centimeters long, immediately face their first life or death test, the race to the sea. The moonlight or the reflection on the water serves as their guide. However, not all manage to complete the journey. Many are captured by seabirds, crabs, and even by human activity. Once in the water, they continue to face dangers from predatory fish and the impact of climate change on their habitat. Only a small fraction of the thousands of individuals will reach maturity. Nevertheless, if they overcome the challenges, these turtles will return to the same beach where they were born to continue the cycle. This miraculous journey in Kondao is not only a moving story of survival, but a powerful testimony to the adaptability of wildlife. Leaving behind the coasts of Kondao, the journey takes us to the Mekong Delta, where the river flows leisurely through the seasons. With a length of approximately 4,350 kilometers, the river begins on the Tibetan Plateau and traverses Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam, before emptying into the East Sea. It is one of the largest and most vital arteries of Southeast Asia, carrying fertile sediments that have sculpted the vast plain of its lower course. Those silty, murky waters not only nourish endless rice paddies, but create one of the most diverse freshwater ecosystems on the planet. Surpassed only by the Amazon basin, hundreds of fish species coexist in the main channel and its intricate network of canals. Small schools migrate according to the flood season, while in the depths it is still possible to glimpse the Mekong giant catfish. Along the banks and in the flooded forests, freshwater turtles, snakes, and in the past, even crocodiles found refuge in the silent swamps. The flooded forests and coastal estuaries along the Mekong are home to countless waterbird species. At daybreak over the waterlogged fields, white egrets, grey herons, and wild ducks spread their wings over the stillness of the river. Closer to the mouth, where the river embraces the ocean, schools of marine fish enter the brackish waters with the tide. Beneath the silt, crustaceans and benthic organisms search for food. The Mekong Delta, with its 40,000 square kilometers, is one of the most prosperous regions in Southeast Asia. A dense system of canals divides the rice paddies that are lost on the horizon. It is the main granary of Vietnam, responsible for more than 50% of national rice production and an essential source of food for many nations. More than a land of abundance, this place is the cradle of a millenary rice civilization. For generations, the inhabitants of the south have learned to live at the rhythm of the water. They dug canals, built homes by the river, and forged an existence linked to the flow of the Mekong. Festivals such as the start of planting or offerings to the agricultural deity reflect the belief that rice is a sacred gift and the river, the pulse that nourishes all the land. In this labyrinth of water, human beings and nature coexist in a delicate balance. With the arrival of seasonal floods, fish spread through the fields and birds nest in the Melaleuca forests and swamps. Thus, season after season, the Mekong continues writing the infinite story of life in the south. In addition to the immense rice paddies, this delta is famous for its flooded forests. The wetland ecosystems in the Mekong Delta are special and extend through zones such as U Minh Thuong, U Minh Ha, Tram Chim, and various nature reserves. Here, Melaleuca forests and mangroves predominate, creating an ideal habitat for wildlife. The long-tailed macaque is one of the most common primates in these forests. They are medium-sized with greyish-brown fur, pink faces, and a tail almost as long as their body, which helps them maintain balance in the treetops. They live in social groups of up to 30 individuals, led by an alpha male who protects the troop. They are omnivores, and their diet includes fruits, leaves, insects, and small animals. They possess amazing agility for climbing and, above all, are excellent swimmers, allowing them to thrive in the flooded environment. They play a crucial role in the ecosystem through seed dispersal. Due to their intelligence and curiosity, they often interact with human settlements in search of food, creating interesting dynamics between man and nature. This wetland system is also a paradise for semi-aquatic birds, where the purple swampin searches for food at dawn. It is a large water bird, an emblem of these wetlands. Its plumage shines with bluish and violet tones under the sun, while its beak and legs stand out like small red flames in the middle of the swamp. They usually move in pairs or small groups, walking lightly over the floating vegetation. As the swampin occasionally stretches to pluck lotus shoots or capture aquatic insects, the male's hoarse call resonates through the silence of the Melaleuca forest, sounding both wild and familiar. When the sun beats down, they seek refuge in the thicket, hiding among the reeds, only to walk again on the serene surface at sunset. It is as if the U Min forest breathes and lives through each leisurely step of the swampin during the flood season. In October, when the southern rains subside, the air becomes clearer. The flooded forests glow with a deep green. Flocks of grey herons fly low over the forest, with their long ash-coloured wings gliding smoothly like smoke. They leave cold East Asia, following the northeast winds to seek the warm wetlands of the Mekong Delta, where food is abundant and shallow waters offer safety for nesting. Upon arriving in U Min, the herons choose the high canopies near the canals, weaving wide nests with dry branches and leaves lined with moss. The forest is suddenly filled with the sound of wing beats and their characteristic hoarse croaks, a harsh but endearing sound that travels between the scent of Melaleuca resin and the mist. Not only do herons arrive, but also white egrets, ducks, and cormorants, dyeing the U Min sky with infinite silhouettes. Each twilight, the flocks return to the nest in a line, casting their shadows over the red-tinted water, a majestic and tender setting that marks the start of a new breeding season. This is also the breeding season for the pheasant-tailed jacana, a bird with a fascinating matriarchal social system. In the lotus and lily ponds, this graceful creature can be found. It is known as the water dancer. With its unusually long toes, it walks lightly over the floating leaves, as if dancing on the motionless mirror of the lake. At dawn, when dew still covers the leaves, the silhouette of the jacana is reflected in the water. Each step is so subtle it barely generates a ripple, looking like a delicate stroke in a traditional wetland painting. In the breeding season, the females, larger and more colourful, start the calls. By contrast, the males silently build the nests with aquatic vegetation on the floating leaves. Once the eggs are deposited, the male takes charge of incubation and rearing, while the female may continue looking for other mates, an uncommon behavior in the avian world. The nests float to the rhythm of the current, housing chicks with yellowish down that, shortly after birth, already know how to balance on the lotus leaves, as if nature had taught them to walk on water from their first breath. At late afternoon, the arcanas return to their refuges. The rustle of their wings blends with the murmur of the water, leaving the lake calm once more. In the immensity of the western rivers, the jacana on the lotus is the symbol of elegance, softness, and resilience, a testimony to the fragile but persistent beauty of life in the southern wetlands. However, Vietnam preserves wildlife not only in deep jungles, high peaks, and the vast ocean. In many corners of this land, conservation centres, ecological zoos, and botanical gardens act silently as bridges between human beings and nature. In these spaces, injured individuals are rescued. Rare species are cared for to have the opportunity to return to their habitat, and children who see for the first time the gaze of a large animal learn to love life through closeness. From the old Saigon Botanical Garden in the heart of the southern metropolis to rescue centres in the mountains, this commitment to protecting wildlife can be seen across Vietnam. Each place guards a fragment of Vietnam's natural memory, protecting fragile beings from the pressure of deforestation, hunting, and climate change. They are not merely tourist spots, but temporary homes for rebirth, where human beings learn to repair part of the losses they themselves caused. This is why Vietnam has become an exceptional territory for lovers of nature and exploration. Rarely is there a strip of land in the world where the traveller can feel with such clarity the pulse of 4 beautiful seasons. In the north, there is misty spring, the summer of endless greenery, golden autumn and frigid winter. Elsewhere, travellers find the warm sun of central Vietnam, the splendour of southern skies, and the rhythm of the central highlands. In each season, Vietnam offers a unique beauty. Spring to contemplate the awakening of the forest, summer to follow the blue waves, autumn to traverse the golden rice terraces, and winter to touch the cold clouds on the highest peaks. This climate not only nurtures biodiversity, but makes Vietnam a captivating destination where it is possible to travel, listen to nature, and understand that each majestic landscape deserves to be preserved for the future. for a journey through deep jungles, mountains that touch the clouds, and mighty rivers, what is most surprising upon arriving in Vietnam is not just its exuberant nature, but its people. Throughout this S-shaped land, from the mountain villages hidden in the morning mist to the fishing towns where waves break day and night, the visitor always finds kind smiles and sincere hospitality. The Vietnamese people have lived in communion with nature for centuries, understanding the cycles of land and water, and considering the forest, the river, and the sea as inseparable parts of their existence. That bond has forged a special culture where human beings and the environment coexist in harmony. The markets of the highlands, vibrant with laughter and colors, the rice fields that stretch under the sunset sun, and the small boats that glide through the western rivers reflect a rhythm of life of unusual peace. In many places, ancestral traditions of respect for the mountains and streams are preserved, under the firm belief that nature is the most precious gift bestowed by heaven and earth. Today, Vietnam is recognized as one of the friendliest and safest tourist destinations on the planet. Travelers from all over the world come not only to admire majestic mountains, ancient forests, rolling rice terraces, or beaches of infinite blue, but to experience wildlife up close. In the ancestral forests, it is possible to hear the call of the gibbons at dawn, catch the silhouette of the dogs swinging among the foliage, or contemplate radiant birds crossing the forest sky. Out at sea, the deep ocean opens a completely different world where vibrant coral reefs, schools of multicolored fish, and amazing marine creatures coexist in an exuberant system. For nature lovers, Vietnam is a place where one can observe the most extraordinary beings on the planet. From rare tropical primates and giant water birds of the swamps to the mysterious inhabitants of the depths. More than a tourist destination, Vietnam is a living classroom of nature. Its jungles, rivers, and oceans hold stories of evolution spanning millions of years. Each species and each ecosystem contributes to the delicate balance of our planet. Therefore, these journeys of discovery not only offer experiences, but help one understand the vital importance of conserving wildlife. In this modern, hurried and changing world, Vietnam still preserves something invaluable: peace. And it is that serenity, combined with the natural richness and the warmth of its people, that turns this land into a place that many long to return to keep exploring, to listen to the breath of nature, and to always remember the warm smiles. And so, the journey along this S-shaped land concludes where the flooded forests of the south merge with the great ocean. From the peaks of Huanglian Sun that touch the clouds to the peaceful Mekong Plain, from the herds of elephants of Yokdon to the turtles of Kondao. Everything forms an eternal symphony of life, where mountains, forests, rivers, and human beings become one. Vietnam is not just a territory, it is a long breath of nature, soft like the morning mist in Son Tra, radiant like the sunset sun in Cat Tien, and saline like the Sea of Kondao. Every mountain, every river, and every flock of birds tells us a story of vitality, of resistance, and of the faith that nature continues to be reborn every day. In this noisy world, when we stop to listen, we realize that Mother Earth continues to breathe, slow, gentle, and persistent, just like the vital rhythm of the Vietnamese people. Thank you for joining us on this journey, the journey of the forests, the waves, and the wild heartbeats that still throb in the land of Vietnam. Peace